If I were to stop fishing tomorrow for some reason, I would still be interested in fly tying.
To fool a fish on a creation that you made is great. You take pride in your work and you put care and effort into crafting something of value. That's pretty neat thing.
If you really want to do something or you really enjoy doing it, no matter how difficult it is, you'll find a way.
Fly tying is more than just the craft of tying flies. There's a tremendous amount of history to it.
They were the top echelon of fly tying. I mean, there's no other way to say it.
And it goes right over his head and he doesn't take it. And then there's a big boulder just quartering away from me downstream to my right. And it's kind of overhanging. It's huge flat rock. And I just see this thing. It looks like a wooden fence post comes rocketing out. And I see this yellow flash, looks like a yield sign. Take my fly and just beeline it for the far bank. And I'm just holding on. I got a 7'9" 4-weight with a Hardy model, 2 7/8 perfect on there, and like 5X tippet. And I'm just holding on. I try to force him out of there and he just turns his head like this and breaks me off. That fish, that hands down had to be the biggest fish I've ever hooked into. It was well over 20 inches. I got to the car, I got on the phone, I go, "John!" And he goes, "What, dude?" I'm like, I started, he goes, he goes, "I know that," I know this phone call.
That was a good one.
It happens to everybody.
Seth has come to us from heaven. Just ties the most beautiful flies. We all enjoy his company. He can do everything, anything. He knows about everything. He's a good, fun guy to have around. It's fun to have a friend like him that is interested in the same thing because of that.
I'm Seth Cavaretta. I work here at Detty's. My father and his father and my mother were all crafty folks. We work with our hands a lot. My father and his father are both mechanics. I ended up becoming a mechanic, but also heavily involved in art. It just was natural to combine both my love of fishing and the outdoors with the craft and the art side of it. It kind of just clicked and made sense to me.
My friends call me Catskill John. I have a little house in Jeffersonville, so I try and get up here every other weekend in the summertime. But all my friends are up here, so we try and get together and go fishing sometimes.
Love this guy. He's one of the most genuine and generous people you'll ever meet up here. Guy will give you the shirt off his back. If you're a genuine person and you want to learn and you have the desire and will to learn and listen, he will give you the shirt off his back. And I came up here to the season opener, and that's where I met John. That's where I met Mango.
Right.
But anyway, so I traveled around a lot. I was in the service. I didn't get to fly fish until I got stationed up here. And then I started getting into it again. Probably, I don't know, early 2000s, dabbling with it. But I got serious when I came back in 2011. Then I was like, you know what? I'm going to really get serious. And I'm in the best place in the world for it. I'm going to get serious about it. So I'll go over one,
Yep.
under one, over one.
There you go.
Under
That ain't
one.
going anywhere.
There's a lot of care that goes into this.
Yes.
Each and every fly.
Each and every fly.
Your best fly tying tools are your fingers.
What kind of things do we look for in good fly tying material? There's tons of.
Takes 40 years.
Takes 40 years to know.
Right. Out of the 40 years, if you accumulated all the material preparation and finding and that's like 5 of those 40 years.
Of just getting materials.
Just like what John does now. What John does now with his skins and his birds and his, you don't even want to use them, they're so nice.
Dave the Cat. Okay, Dave the Cat and I have been friends for, I don't know, Dave, how many years? 25 years? 35. 35, okay. So I met Dave, I don't exactly remember the first day I met him, but I know I met him here at the museum. And he obviously is as passionate about this as I am.
Those are waxed eye quills.
Okay.
For your quill garden, okay?
And who processed these?
I did.
You did them all?
Yeah. My mentors are like, they were the top echelon of fly tying. I mean, there's no other way to say it. But yet, as nervous and as shy as I was, they built my confidence up. You're off to a real good start by Joseph giving you those 2 skins.
Yeah.
Those are nice.
You can't beat that. Those are basics.
I'm still working on my doctorate on becoming a trout bum. My name is Tom Mason. I'm a volunteer here at the Catskill Fly Fishing Center and Museum. Have been for quite a few years. I learned how to tie flies before I learned how to cast a fly rod, because I wanted to do this, but it was wintertime, and I heard about a fly tying club, a fly fishing club, and they met on, I think it was Tuesday night, way back in the 70s. And I just showed up one night and learned how to tie flies, and I've loved it. I fell in love with it right away.
Was that here?
No.
No?
That was back in Massachusetts at a fishing game club. They had a trout pond with a little shack beside it, and these old guys got together, tied flies. I think it was Tuesday nights. So I went there, and they wouldn't talk to me. I just sat there for a while, and the guy next to me says, "What do you want?" And I said, "I want to learn how to tie flies." So he says to me, "Well, how old are you?" And I said, I think I was about 25. He says, "You should be out chasing women." And I said, "Well, it's only 6 o'clock. I'm going to go out after the meeting, but right now I want to learn how to tie flies." Well, John Apka, I think I've known 5 years now, John. And he is a welcome addition to the museum and the guild and the area. John has a home here, and he's a hunter, he's a fisherman. He's a lot of things. He's a lot of good things. He does a lot of things really well. And I'm very happy to have him as a friend.
I mean, I was always big on the outdoors. I've always hunted and fished. It was just a natural progression from bait fishing to stalking to fly fishing, and then fly fishing came tying and learning how to build your own rods, and it just kept building on that. Just being outside. I mean, nobody yells at you when you're standing in the middle of the river fishing. It's a pretty peaceful place to be. I'm a pretty active tyer. I tie flies almost every day of the year. I do, I commercial tie, I tie for friends, I tie for charities, I tie for the museum. So I'm, roughly 350 dozen or so a year roundabout. My father bought me a cheap Kmart kit when I was 9 or 10 to keep me out of his hair on rainy days. And it just kept growing and growing, and I took over more of the basement, and I took over that. And now that my house at home, my fly tying room is as big as our living room. But I don't know if you ever tie a perfect fly. There's always room for improvement. There's always a trick you can learn from one of the guild members, a brand new member that's looking at fly tying from a newbie comes up with a great idea. So there's always something to make a fly a little better.
I absorb so much from them on a daily basis. They're multi-talented people. And it seems like I've always been surrounded by them, and it has made my life much easier.
I mean, I do it a little different than Tom. I do it on top, and I bring it through the center of the wing, and I tie in front of it, and then I build a little bit of a ramp.
How many wraps do I do on this?
3 is good.
3.
All right, break off the wire. If you're going to cut the wire with your scissors, try to cut it deep.
I got you.
My name's John Shaner. I'm currently retired. I've been in the fly fishing industry most of my working life. One of the rules I made with myself many years ago when I was quite young was I only wanted to fish with flies I tied myself. And if I could give any beginning or intermediate fly tyer a bit of advice, it would be that. Rely on your own flies, and your own flies will get better. It's one of the quickest ways to become a better fly tyer. Ultimately, every single fly that's ever been tied is slightly different than every other fly. And the fish don't know that. What it comes down to is your skill in the presentation of the fly.
15 years ago, when I was starting to meet a lot of guys up here and making friends and learning about it, and I was really interested in the old flies. And I was coming around this one bend, and I've been there a bunch of times before. It was where I started, this little stream. And right as you come up, the stream's got a big pool in front of you. There's a giant school bus size boulder on the right hand side, and then the stream bends 90 degrees to the left. And as I was approaching it, I'm looking around, and I saw a little glint from a hemlock branch that was hanging over the big rock. And I got a little closer, and there was a fly hanging off it. So I thought, well, I wonder, you always wonder what guys fish, what guys are using, because I didn't know that much. So I ruined the whole pool by wading through it, climbed up on the rock, reached down, grabbed the branch, pulled the leader off, and there was the most beautiful dun variant, which is one of Art Flick's patterns, on the end of about a 2 foot of leader. And I was so excited about this thing, I almost just wanted to leave. I figured I could go home and tie a bunch of these, so I finished out the day and took it home. After looking at this, it changed my whole perspective on how I was tying different flies all together and using different ones. That was what really got me interested in the Catskill style. This thing was perfect. It had a little space behind the eye, and the hackle was big, and maybe 6 or 7 turns of quill with a long tail. It was just beautiful. And that may have been the turning point for me, like going to the older style, If I could talk to the guy that tied that fly, I would immediately ask him where he got the hackle, where did he learn to tie, why does he fish that fly here? I idolize it. It's, it actually rejuvenates you. You look at it and you remember, and it's one of my favorite things.
Pinch them in that hand, now move your fingers up higher. There you go. Because they're not going to be that long, right? So keep, yep, there you go. I just kind of do that, and I work them. I make sure they're even. They're never ever perfect. You always strive for perfection, but you never reach it. You could pick something apart on every fly, but that's why you don't. You keep doing it, right? You strive for perfection, but we'll never get there. We're humans. But there's just something right about a well-executed, I would say well-executed over perfect, a well-executed Catskill style dry fly, they just look right. Yeah. They just look right. Even though you guys are relatively new to the sport, right? You know right off the bat a good fly from a bad fly, do you not? Just by looking at it, right off the bat. You haven't been doing this very long, but you know that something about that looks right and something about that one looks wrong. If the proportions are right and the fly's done right, you know. None of them are ever perfect, but you know when they're tied correctly. And you know what a good fly is and you know what a bad fly is right off the bat. Just like without taking a level out, that picture on the wall is crooked. That frame is crooked. Mm-hmm. Your eye picks it up.
I don't really remember how I started fly fishing, but I never spin fished. I don't know. My family's not a fishing family, so we wasn't like I got it from my dad or my uncle or anything like that. And I had a friend that lived near me that liked to fish too, and he had a fly rod, and that's most likely where it came from. And then we used to come up on the weekends and in the summer. And, there was a little stream at the bottom of the hill, like 10 acres down, with brook trout in it. I didn't catch any in there, but I used to always think that I would.
Watching in real life, like real time, how to tie it, I feel like it helps a lot compared to like trying to read it out of a book or something like that.
Or even watching a video. It's better when
and not for nothing, Seth explains it really, really well.
If I were to stop fishing tomorrow for some reason, I would still be interested in fly tying. And to me, fly tying is more than just the craft of tying flies. There's a tremendous amount of history to it. You can look at the development of worldwide commerce and track it through the materials that are used in fishing. You can see technological and scientific developments reflected in fly fishing. And yet, some of the most effective flies I know that I still fish would have been familiar to anglers 150 years ago.
To fool a fish on a creation, you know, that you made is great. You know, if you take, you know, you take pride in your work and you put care and effort into crafting something of value in your mind, and then you're able to fool, you know, a wily fish into thinking that that's an actual natural insect. That's pretty neat thing.
I think with tying and fishing and everything, it's the more serious you are about it, and it's just like anything, right? I mean, if you really want to do something or you really enjoy doing it, no matter how difficult it is, you'll find a way. If I could catch my dream fish on a dream fly, it would be a little native brown on a small stream on a pink lady by Visible. And it happened to me 2 years ago, and I could have died the day after and had a good life. But I have a picture of that too, if you want to see it. It's just the most beautiful in a place that I just love.
I enjoy fishing with fewer types and patterns of flies and relying more on my skill in reading the water and approach and casting than I do on fly pattern. And I think that's important for people entering the sport. The number of fly patterns can be absolutely daunting, and it can create a lot of confusion as to what they should be using. Don't get too wrapped around the axle, whether it's just the right color or just the right size or just the right pattern.
Tying good quality flies is great. Being able to present that fly correctly is the real key, I think, probably, though. I mean, you can fool fish on crappy flies, but what fun is that also?
You said this is all you fish for streamers, right?
Yeah, I don't fish streamers that much, and when I do, I'll just use this one. It's an old Theodore Gordon pattern that he changed a lot through the years, and then when he died, a bunch of other guys changed it. So it's had a big run, a big long run where it's changed from the original style to where it is now. But we still tie it the old way. You know, you fall in love with something and it works for you, you catch a couple fish, and then the more you use it, the more fish you catch with it.
I mean, I guess it's always the quest to come up with a go-to fly that's always going to work, and there isn't a go-to fly that's always going to work. So I guess that's what keeps you going.
We're dependent on the rivers and the streams and the lakes and the natural world for our sport. You can take a bulldozer and a backhoe and a bunch of grass seed. You can make yourself a nice golf course anywhere. You can't do that with a trout stream. You can't go somewhere and simply plant a trout stream. You can maintain a trout stream, but every trout fishery in the world, yes, there are some that are artificial and so forth, but they're still all dependent on clean, cold water.
If we don't have any fish, there's not going to be any fly fishing. So we have to work to preserve the fisheries and the streams and the mountains and the forests.
Well, I mean, it's a delicate resource, and it's a fragile ecosystem. You know, wild brook trout, you know, they won't survive if the water isn't clean and clear and pristine. There's a group of folks around here that live and breathe this all year long. It's not just a seasonal thing, whether they work in the shops, work with the museum, work in the guild, volunteer their time on the rivers cleaning up or teaching and instructing people or doing improvements. There's definitely a community here that everybody knows each other, helps each other out. Like this guy came up here because I asked him to come here and be part of this today. And he drove 3 hours from Pennsylvania to come up here and do this. Why? Because, you know, he's my friend and this is the community. And yeah, there's definitely a sense of community around here. Some great folks that care about the resource and the region and the history. And that's what we're trying to preserve. Whether it's tying classic patterns on antique hooks or being involved in the area and the restoration and just taking care of the place. Yeah.
I enjoy the collecting of the materials. I enjoy learning about techniques. And I really like the people that do it, that have made it a passion. Because for some reason, I have that passion.
I got peace like a river, I got peace like a river, I got peace like a river in my soul. I got peace like a river, I got peace like a river, I got peace like a river in my soul. I got joy like a fountain, I got joy like a fountain, I got joy like a fountain in my soul. I got joy like a fountain, I got joy